Hey there, jewelry friends. Welcome back to another episode of the Jewelry Resellers Podcast. My name is Desiree, and I am your jewelry reselling bestie. Today's episode comes as a request from one of you. One of you asked if I could do an episode dedicated to fake luxury jewelry. Now, I know as resellers, this is something that we come across probably every time we go out sourcing. Maybe when we're at thrift stores, yard sales, flea markets. This stuff is everywhere. And I think it's a good idea to have a dedicated episode talking about the fake luxury jewelry market and how we can identify or spot these pieces so we can protect ourselves as well as our buyers. Because this is something that I think we just don't talk enough about. And I know there have been previous mentions of fake jewelry in other episodes that I've done, but I've never done a complete deep dive episode talking about that. So that's what we are going to cover today. All right. So, like I said, if you don't know me or if you are new here, my name is Desiree and I'm the host of the Jewelry Resellers Podcast. So, what I like to do is give you information that will help you either start or grow a jewelry reselling business. I have been doing this going on 5 years now, and I absolutely love it. And I am thrilled and honored to share everything I know with you, and even things that I don't know that I am willing to research and bring that information to you again. So you can have the best business that you possibly can as it relates to reselling jewelry. All right, so if you'd like to learn more about the podcast, or if you would like to listen to any of the past episodes, all you got to do is head on over to jewelryresellerspodcast.com, because over there you will see that I have a lot of information as it relates to jewelry and as it relates to reselling. And you can also join our newsletter, where you can get instant access to a document that I created titled The 20 Best-Selling Vintage Jewelry Brands That I Think All Resellers Should Know. And I will send that to you, or you can access that absolutely free. All right. That information has been compiled from my own experience as well as my own research over the many years that I have been involved or just studying jewelry, specifically vintage jewelry. All right, so let's go ahead now and get into today's topic, because, you know, I'm not going to say I don't love luxury jewelry. And I'm not even going to say that I don't love getting a deal whenever and wherever I can. But we have to be really careful when it comes to counterfeit, knockoff, fake, replicas as it relates to luxury goods. Now, we're going to focus specifically on jewelry, but remember, a lot of the information that I'm going to be covering and sharing with you today can also apply to other types of goods, right? Handbags, clothing, home decor, all of the things. All right. So, like I said, we're going to cover jewelry today because that's where I've got my notes and where my focus is. But I just want you to be aware that this stuff is not only limited to jewelry items and jewelry pieces and so forth. All right. So, did you know that the counterfeit jewelry industry is worth billions of dollars? And I know unintentionally I have purchased counterfeit jewelry thinking that it was real. Um, and it's something that can be overwhelming when you think about it, because we if we don't know, we may go ahead and list these items thinking that they're real, or we could be supporting indirectly an industry that is very dishonest and fraudulent. All right. And I'm pretty sure none of us want to do that. Like I said, at least not intentionally. So we're going to start today's episode talking about the rise of fake luxury jewelry, because unfortunately, this industry seems to be growing, and it's getting easier and easier now to make counterfeit replicas of these higher end jewelry pieces, especially with the technology that we have today. All right, we're going to discuss why the fake luxury jewelry market continues to grow. And we are also going to cover some red flags as it relates to identifying or spotting fake luxury jewelry items. And I'm also going to discuss some of the tools that you may want to have or keep on hand so you can get better at identifying counterfeit pieces. All right, so there's a lot to cover, and I have 7 pages of notes, as you guys know, because I don't want to forget everything. And typically, I'm one of those people that I like to give more information than not enough. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. The fake luxury jewelry market is a multi-billion-dollar global industry with estimates suggesting the counterfeit luxury goods market exceeds over $500 billion annually. That's insane. All right, luxury jewelry is a significant segment of this market because of its high value, strong demand, and ease of replication using modern technology. All right, so let's talk about why fake luxury jewelry is so in demand. Well, and it's funny because, or maybe it's not funny, but a lot of us want the look of luxury goods without having to pay the price. And I understand that. Trust me, I've been there. I may have, purchased a knockoff handbag or two in my days, and I have no problem admitting that. But when it comes to jewelry, I'm a lot more cautious just because I don't want cheap stuff falling apart, or things that just don't look right in one way or another. Now, that being said, when it comes to counterfeit jewelry, a lot of the times you can't really tell the knockoff pieces from the authentic ones. All right, so it's getting harder and it's getting easier to create fake jewelry, especially fake luxury jewelry. All right, so the increase in global demand for luxury goods, the global appetite for luxury items has grown, fueled by the rise of aspirational buyers who want to own status symbols but may not have the budget for authentic items. Fake jewelry offers an affordable way to replicate the look of wealth and status. All right. The other thing is that social media has amplified the desire for luxury as influencers and celebrities showcase high end items, making them more desirable to the general public. Now, the other reason why the fake jewelry market is growing is because there's so many advancements in counterfeiting technology. I've kind of touched upon AI in previous episodes of the podcast, but modern techniques like 3D printing, high quality plating, and synthetic gemstones have made it easier and cheaper to produce convincing replicas. Counterfeiters are also becoming better at mimicking brand specific details such as engravings, hallmarks, and packaging. All right. Also, the growth of the online marketplace, places like eBay, Etsy, AliExpress, and social media marketplaces have become hotspots for counterfeit luxury goods, as we all know. All right. And there is a lack of regulation as it relates to some of these platforms when it comes to selling these fake goods. All right. And on some of these platforms, you can be entirely anonymous and not suffer any type of repercussions other than, getting your account shut down, right? It's not like you're going to really get into that much trouble. Okay, so that's another reason why the fake luxury jewelry market is growing. There's also the lack of consumer awareness. All right. Now, a lot of buyers are not educated as it relates to high end goods, so they may not know how to identify or to recognize when something is a fake. All right. So they just look at it and they may just see, the name Chanel, Tiffany, Gucci, whatever it may be, and they may automatically assume that it's authentic. Now, also, one of the things that I thought was interesting is the economic factors that have an impact on this particular industry of fake goods. During periods of economic downturn or inflation, consumers may look for more affordable alternatives to luxury goods. Now, that makes sense, right? Counterfeit luxury jewelry thrives in markets where disposable income is limited, but the desire for high end items remains. So true. Now, this is probably the biggest thing that I think contributes to the growth of the counterfeit industry, and that is weak enforcement of counterfeit laws. Now, I know we've all seen the news stories where someone gets busted trying to smuggle in thousands of pieces of replica jewelry, and that's all well and good. But for the most part, there isn't really anybody enforcing counterfeit laws locally. At least I can say that from my own experience here where I live in Las Vegas. I have seen counterfeit goods in Goodwill. I have seen people selling them at yard sales or garage sales. I have seen them at flea markets. And I have also seen counterfeit jewelry being sold in those little kind of like craft markets or craft fairs or like those fall festivals where you rent a table and you lay out the jewelry. I've seen people selling fake jewelry there as well as fake handbags. Now, I used to also have a booth in an antique mall. And even in the antique mall, there were a couple of booths where the people were selling counterfeit jewelry items. So, like I said, there really isn't a whole lot of enforcement as it relates to the local markets, like where you are sourcing or where you are selling, because you will see fake goods, like I said, at all of those places, and nobody is getting in trouble. Nobody is asking them to remove the pieces from their store or from their booth or wherever. And so I think because of that, that's why, people tend to get caught up. And that's why the counterfeit industry continues to grow because these goods are still out there and they are easily accessible by anyone. All right. So, the final thing we want to talk about is the growing of secondary markets. And when I talk about secondary markets, those are places like the Real, ThreadUp, places like that where you can send in your high end goods and then they will resell it on their platform and then give you a commission when the item sells. I don't know if you guys remember that story of a woman who bought a Chanel, I think it was a handbag or a piece of jewelry. I can't remember. She bought it off of the Real. She kept it for 2 or 3 years and then she realized, oh, I need the money. So she sent it back to the Real. And then the Real told her that her item wasn't legit. It wasn't authentic. And so she went back and said, hey, well, I bought this from you several years ago. So you're telling me that you sold me a fake item. And so it was this whole big thing on TikTok. I don't know whatever happened with that, but that just goes to show you that even some of these larger platforms who claim to have all this verification and authentication, abilities, that even they can mistake or miss fake jewelry pieces. All right. So we need to pay attention to this and just be aware of it. So, again, like I said, we can protect ourselves as jewelry resellers and also as buyers. All right. So, the impact on the industry for brands: counterfeiting damages brand reputation and erodes consumer trust. Brands invest heavily in anti-counterfeiting measures, such as unique serial numbers and certificates of authenticity. All right, the impact on buyers and resellers. Buyers risk wasting money on low quality fakes that don't hold value. Resellers risk legal consequences and damaged credibility if they inadvertently sell counterfeit items. And I've talked about that here on the podcast several times, that we have to be very careful that we don't jeopardize our business or ourselves by knowingly committing some type of fraud or breaking some type of laws. All right, so let's get into some of the red flags as it relates to spotting or identifying fake luxury jewelry. Okay, so these are the things that you want to look out for. This is what you want to pay attention to. And I always say this too, that you want to trust your gut when it comes to making purchases of certain things. If something feels off, if something feels like it's just not right, but you can't quite put your finger on it, I'm going to say to honor that. You're never going to lose um, by walking away from a deal. Yes, maybe it might be good, maybe it's fantastic. But the thing is you will always find another deal. I can promise you that. The longer and the more you do this, the more educated you will be and the more opportunities you will find. I can promise you that. All right, so red flag number one, if it's too good to be true, the pricing, it probably is. I have seen people claim that they're selling authentic Chanel bracelets or Tiffany necklaces and all that, but yet the price really just didn't match what the true value of the item should be. Right now, these are pieces that maybe even if you were to buy them secondhand, could still cost in the hundreds or even thousands of dollars. So don't get sucked in by a cheap price, or if something, somebody gives you some type of song and dance and some type of backstory. Oh, this used to belong to so and so, and I just want to get rid of it because I need the money, because you will hear those types of stories a lot. Don't get sucked into that, because 9 times out of 10, if not 10 times out of 10, it's a fake or it's some type of a scam. All right, red flag number two is packaging inconsistencies. Now, I have seen authentic high end luxury brand packaging, but the actual item inside the packaging was fake or is fake or counterfeit or whatever. All right, so be careful when you are buying something and they say, oh, we're going to include the package or the box or the dust bag or whatever. Um, Understand that the packaging could tell you a lot either way. Just because the packaging is authentic, don't immediately trust that the jewelry inside is authentic. Or if the packaging looks a little off, like it looks mass produced and it looks kind of sloppy or just weird, or the colors seem a little weird or strange, understand that that's another red flag that you want to pay attention to. All right, poor quality, missing authentication cards, or like I said, sometimes the stuff just looks cheaply made. And if you are getting something authentic, it won't look cheaply made. The details are everything, and you will be able to tell when something is authentic. All right, at least you'll have a better idea of what the authentic version of whatever it is looks like. Okay. All right. So, red flag number three is hallmarks and engravings. I talk about this a lot. Differences in fonts, spacings, or incorrect markings. This is huge, especially on Tiffany pieces. You can see that the stamps sometimes will be off centered, or the stamp will be at an angle, or the letters are not quite crisp, and it just looks like the font just doesn't match what is typical of Tiffany's pieces. All right, so you can go online and you can do a search of Tiffany stamp or Tiffany engraving, and you can see all of the different, I guess, fakes out there, so you can recognize them. Now, the other thing too that I wanted to throw out there, I just thought about this. There are groups on Facebook where some of the people in the group will be able to help you identify pieces, and they can tell you if you put really good photos in the groups. They can tell you, like, if it looks fake or if it looks good or if it looks off or something like that. So remember that the Facebook groups are another really good resource for you to help identify a piece if you think that it could be authentic, or if you think that it could be fake. All right, so tap into these resources. And the nice thing about the Facebook groups is that they're free. All right, so Red flag number 4, let's check the weight and the materials. All right, luxury jewelry is made with high quality metals. Fakes often feel too light or too flimsy, or sometimes they just feel cheap. There's really no other way to describe it. It just feels cheap. All right, when you have a luxury piece of jewelry in your hand, you will know and you'll be able to tell by not only the weight, but also just feeling the piece. It should be very smooth. There shouldn't be any sharp or jagged edges. It should, be very cohesive in the design. The gold shouldn't be two different colors of yellow. Everything should be very, very consistent and fluid. All right. So the more you start handling these higher end pieces, the more you will be able to recognize when you're not handling an authentic piece. All right, you also want to look for the stone quality, depending on if you're looking for, or if you are, if you have a piece that has real diamonds. Real diamonds sparkle differently from cubic zirconia. Now, one of the things I learned about CZ is like when you hold it up, you'll be able to see like little prisms in there because the CZs are cut so perfectly. Now, all diamonds have flaws from my understanding. And so, even though it will sparkle, it won't have like this perfect, I don't even know how to describe it, like this perfect look to it. And maybe I'm not even describing it very well. But if I can find some photos, I will throw them up here. And there's probably some of you out there that know diamonds way better than I do, but I know how to recognize cubic zirconia. And so one of the things is you may not know exactly how to recognize a diamond, but if you can recognize cubic zirconia, then you will know instantly that that's not diamond, right? So it's kind of like a process of elimination. Learn how to recognize the cheaper fake stuff, because then you will know when something doesn't look like that, that it could be authentic. All right. My last red flag that I want to share with you is seller transparency. If the seller avoids questions or refuses to provide additional photos or documentation, that is always a red flag. Now, I am going to say this with the caveat of us being resellers. Usually, we probably won't have a certificate of authentication, but if it's something that you believe is really, really high end or luxury, and you're asking quite a bit of money for it, it is worth the time, effort, and expense to go ahead and get that piece authenticated by some type of a third party that you know and trust. All right. Because then when you are selling the piece, you can say, hey, I paid my own money to get this authenticated, and here is the documentation or the paperwork showing that it is what I am claiming that it is. All right. Now, again, this is going to be for higher end pieces. It may not be for, our typical bread and butter pieces that we're selling. But if you do have something that is on the higher end, again, consider getting it authenticated in some way. All right. So now I would like to talk about some of the tools and the techniques for authenticating jewelry. Now, I have gone over this before, but I think creating a list, a comprehensive list, is going to be helpful because these are the things that we need to I mean, obviously have as much as we can afford as jewelry resellers, but also because it's going to help you become more knowledgeable and more educated. Okay, because you're going to know what to look for. You're going to know what seems off. You're going to know what to study, and all the little details are going to matter, and you're going to be able to pick up when something is off. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the tools for identifying fake luxury jewelry. Number one, we have a jeweler's loop. Now, no matter what kind of jewelry you're selling, luxury or not, I do believe all jewelry resellers should have a jeweler's loop. And a jeweler's loop is like that little magnifying glass thing. I don't have mine nearby, but it's like the little magnifying glass. Mine has a little light on it. So you can look at jewelry pieces up close. So you can identify the stamps, the, whatever type of hallmarks are on there, markings, whatever. And you can also look at the stones and the settings up close. All right. So it magnifies the details like engravings, hallmarks, settings, and stone clarity. What you want to look for with the jeweler's loop is inconsistent or sloppy engravings, like we talked about, rough or jagged edges on metal, and misaligned prongs or stones. And sometimes you will notice too that the prongs may not match the stone size, indicating maybe a stone was switched out. Like they may have taken out a diamond and put in a CZ or something like that. You want to pay attention to the sizing of the stone in the prongs and make sure it matches and that it looks like it's the proper prong setting for the size stone that it's holding. Okay. So, number one, a jeweler's loop. Number two, a digital scale. All right. A lot of us probably already have a scale because we use that for shipping as well. But you want to be able to measure the weight of jewelry. So you want to have a scale that has where you can switch between grams and ounces, because that's typically how jewelry is weighed, grams and or ounces. All right. Genuine luxury jewelry is often heavier due to the density of materials like gold, platinum, or high quality stones. And counterfeit jewelry pieces may feel lightweight or hollow. And sometimes you can even listen to the way jewelry sounds, and it will sound cheap. And um, it's hard to describe. Oh, I do happen to have, let me see. All right. So this is a cheap silver chain, but I don't know if you can tell that sound, but to me, that sounds very hollow. This is very lightweight and it just sounds hollow, right? And I don't have a higher end piece to compare it to, but that's just to give you one example. Sometimes you can tell by what something sound or how something sounds, whether or not it's authentic or if it's just a cheap piece, like the one I just I just jingled was. All right, so that's another tip. All right, so where are we on the list? Oh, another tool to help us identify fake luxury jewelry is the jewelry magnet, which is a high powered magnet. And I've talked about this in previous episodes before. And you know what? I also have links to all of these things on the website under resources. Also, in the description of this video, if you're watching the video on YouTube, or in the show notes if you're listening to the audio version. All right. But I do have links to all of these tools that I'm talking about today. All right. So the jeweler's magnet is the very heavy duty magnet. And remember, if it's real precious metal, it will not stick to the magnet. Okay. So you want to look for genuine gold, platinum, and sterling silver that are non magnetic. If the item is attracted to the magnet, it may contain base metals or be plated. And I talked about this in my Everything Resellers Need to Know About Gold and Silver episodes. So if you would like to go back and watch those, I have some information as it relates to gold plated and silver plated jewelry. All right, so next up is the UV light or the black light. I love these things. I love shining my black light on jewelry pieces or vintage and antique glass pieces. I just think this is fun. I keep one in my purse. All right, but you want to have a UV light or a black light. The purpose is to detect fluorescence in diamonds and other gemstones. Yeah, so a lot of these authentic pieces will glow under black light. So, what you want to look for are some genuine diamonds that exhibit a blue fluorescence under UV light. Counterfeit stones, such as cubic zirconia, typically do not fluoresce or do not glow. The other thing you want to keep on hand is a metal testing kit. I've talked about this in many episodes. All right. You want to keep these on hand because it's kind of like that scratch test that we've talked about. Genuine metals will react according to their carat rating, while fakes may discolor or dissolve. Again, you want to be very careful when you're using some of these acid tests because they could damage the piece. Another thing, a diamond tester. All right. Now, if you want to invest in a diamond tester, if you're going to be selling high end luxury jewelry as part of like your main thing, a diamond tester is definitely something that is worth the investment. Now, I don't have one. However, I've debated whether or not I want to buy one. I don't come across a lot of high end luxury jewelry. But if I was going to switch to that business model, I wouldn't hesitate to buy one because I think it would just it would just make life a lot easier. All right, you want to look for diamond testers that measure thermal or electrical conductivity. Real diamonds conduct heat differently from fakes like cubic zirconia or moissanite. All right, so keep that in mind. The other things, I have a caliper or a ruler here. You want to measure the dimensions of jewelry or stones, compare measurements to official brand specifications. Discrepancy in size may indicate a fake. All right, so this is something we need to pay attention to. You know, do the details of the piece match the sizing of what the authentic piece should be or how it's made? All right, so pay attention to the sizing as well. An XRF analyzer. Now, I don't have one of these, although I have learned a little bit about it. When I did the 2 episodes with Matt, I know Matt Harris, my favorite pearl expert, he has one of these XRF analyzer tools, and it is something that helps you identify metals. I think that's what it's for. Non destructive metal analysis is what I have in my notes. This advanced tool determines the elemental composition of metal. Yes, so it is to help you identify the metals or the precious metals used for identifying plating or non genuine materials. All right. Oh, and the last thing I have on my list is a polarized light microscope. Now, I don't know if any of us as resellers are going to be are going to be buying this, but you never know, right? Because sometimes you never know where this journey of reselling jewelry may take you, and this may make sense for you and your business. Maybe not now, but maybe in the future. All right, so a polarized light microscope examines the internal structure of stones. Very fascinating. All right, you can identify inclusions or synthetic growth patterns in fake gemstones. All right, now this sounds like something I would just like to have because I'm a nerd like that and I like to, to look at this kind of stuff. But I don't think I will be buying one of these anytime soon. But you never know. You never know. Okay, so let's talk about some techniques for identifying fake jewelry. All right, this is really important. We've talked about this. Inspect the hallmarks and stamps. I think this goes without saying. This is always where we're going to start as it relates to identifying jewelry, fake or not fake. You always want to look for a marking anywhere on the piece, and depending on what the piece is, it may or may not be immediately visible. All right, but you always want to check for hallmarks and stamps. And remember, fake jewelry may have misspellings. Yes, that has happened. Faint markings or inconsistent or off placement. All right. You also want to look at the craftsmanship. Luxury jewelry displays high quality finishings, symmetrical settings, and secure prongs. All right. So look at the quality of the piece. How well is it made or not made? You also want to test the stones. We talked about that as well. Diamonds, use a diamond tester or a loop to check for inclusions. Real diamonds do have natural flaws, while the fakes, like cubic zirconia, are often too perfect, right? They just look so perfect. And so you have to understand that. Diamonds are not perfect because they are from the earth. And not that I know a lot about diamonds, but just from what I've learned and what I've seen, uh, that's part of the beauty of them, right? Because they can just be so unique and so beautiful in their natural state. All right, so you want to look for vibrant yet natural coloring. Synthetic stones may appear overly bright or dull. Now, the other thing you want to pay attention to are serial numbers. Many luxury brands engrave serial numbers on their pieces. Brands like Cartier, Tiffany & Co., and Van Cleef and Arpels. All right, so if you can research the serial numbers, I would suggest that you do that. I'm sure you can go online and look things up. And you also want to make sure that the serial number matches the actual piece. Like if the serial number says, if you look it up and it's a ring, but then you see that serial number on the necklace, then you know it's fake. Even though the serial number may be authentic, then we know the jewelry piece is a fake, all right, because it's reusing or recycling a serial number from another authentic piece of jewelry. And I have seen that happen. All right, so counterfeiters often use invalid or duplicate numbers. All right, you want to feel the jewelry. We talked about that, the weight, the way it's made, the construction. All right, feel the piece and make sure that it does feel luxurious. You also want to cross check with brand specifications. All right. And you can look this up online, especially if the piece is still available. Especially on some of these higher end websites, they'll tell you exactly the size of the stone, the exact weight, the dimensions, the design details. Things of the clasp mechanisms, the thickness, all of those things, they will tell you on the authentic jewelry website. All right, so you can compare that to the piece that you have as well. And also look for photos of the authentic pieces from trusted sources so you can compare them to the piece that you have. Now, I thought this was really interesting. Have you guys ever heard of the fog test on diamonds? The way it works is that you breathe on the stone to create condensation. All right, on real diamonds, the fog disperses instantly. But on fakes, e.g., cubic zirconia, it will hold the fog for a few seconds before it evaporates or fades away, which I thought was interesting. So I've never tried that, but it's just a little tip that maybe, maybe we might try that when we're out and about sourcing or something like that. Also, you want to examine the packaging. We talked about that earlier. Make sure that the packaging matches. And like I said, a lot of times you can buy authentic packaging from places like eBay, Mercari, wherever. So just because the packaging is authentic, don't automatically assume that the jewelry piece is authentic as well. Okay, so that's what I got for you today as it relates to exposing fake luxury jewelry. You know, I do want to end with this because I have actually had a couple of people ask me if I come across fake Tiffany, Van Cleef and Arpels, like whatever. People have said that if I come across fakes, they would buy it from me. Right? So this is something you're going to have to think about for your own business. Now, is that something you would be willing to do? Is that something that you would consider? Because like I said, in this reselling industry, in this reselling market, there's a demand for almost everything, including fake luxury jewelry. And like I said, I've had people ask me for that. Now, I have never come across a fake Van Cleef and Arpels and I don't think I've ever come across a fake Tiffany. I've seen it, but I have gotten fake jewelry pieces when I buy bulk lots, or in the past when I've bought jewelry jars. There's been some fake jewelry pieces in there. Um, but never the name brand stuff. I've never I've never gotten any of that. But like I said, I have had people ask me for it. So I have to really make the decision and determine, is that something that I would want to sell? Probably not, just because I don't want to put myself at risk and I don't want to put my business at risk. Now, I would say though, if I found a piece in a bulk lot and like I knew it was fake and I didn't want to sell it, I would have no problem wearing it myself. I don't know if that makes me good, bad, or or anything else. But if I'm just going to wear it myself, I don't see a problem with that. And I didn't intentionally buy it, knowing it was fake, so I wouldn't have a problem with that. But I'd like to know, what would you do if you came across a fake jewelry piece, maybe while you were outsourcing? Would you buy it for yourself? Would you buy it to resell? Maybe this isn't anything that you've thought about, and now is the time to make that decision, because if you continue on your reseller journey, I'm going to say that probably more than likely you will come across fake jewelry pieces in one way or another, either in a bulk buy, or like I said, you'll see it at the flea market, the thrift store, or at a garage sale. So, something to think about. All right. So, like I said, I hope this episode was helpful, and I hope it gave you some confidence and some information to help you identify fake jewelry pieces or fake luxury jewelry pieces, so you can protect yourself and protect your business in whatever way is necessary. And here's the thing, too, I will throw this out there. If you need some help identifying a high-end luxury jewelry piece, you can feel free to DM me on Instagram at Jewelry Resellers Podcast, because even though I don't know everything, I know a lot of people who know way more than I do, and maybe I can either reach out to someone who can help you, or maybe I can refer you to someone who can help you. All right, and I, have no problems doing that, and I would love to help you in any way I can. All right, so I want to thank you so much for spending this time with me, and I will check in with you again for the next episode really soon.